I am County Councillor Carl Lewis. I am the County Councillor for the Llandinam Ward. I'm also currently the Chairman of the Planning, Taxi and Licence Rights of Way Committee in Powys County Council.
Well, Carl, I understand last night the water was higher than you've ever seen before.
That's correct. I've never seen it come over the A470, and I've lived in Llandinam all my life, 41 years. I've never seen it that high.
Well, we're now at the main car park in Llandinam. Would you like to point out roughly what the level of this water was down here?
It was up to where you see the loose gravel along there, and it was coming in across the A470 at the top of the road there, flowing down the road and into this car park and back out into the River Severn.
So was the road blocked last night?
It was blocked in both directions. We've had the fire service out, a cruise from Aberystwyth and one from Llanidloes. The one from Aberystwyth was a boat rescue service, and we managed to rescue 7 individuals from 5 properties.
And that you had to make some emergency phone calls last night to the head of highways?
I did indeed. I contacted Matt Perry, who was instrumental in getting me sandbags to the properties, and we managed to save a number of properties last night due to Matt Perry's quick thinking. I have been on to NRW on a number of occasions to improve the river system in through Llandinam Ward, but at the moment it's fallen on deaf ears.
Okay, well, let's go to the Llandinam Bridge and have a look at the level of the water there, and maybe have a look at some of these houses that suffered from flooding.
There's a huge amount of water, you're right. It was up to the arches. Obviously today it's fallen away. I'm surprised these settler trees are still standing in the river. There was a tremendous force of water here last night, and my prayers and thoughts are with the people of Shrewsbury right now.
Right, well, we'll look now. We'll cross over to the other side of the river and have a look. And this is the amount of water that, as you can see, would be flowing down here last night, and this would be heading now down to Newtown and then on to Welshville, and is arriving in Shrewsbury.
My name is Andrew Lister and I live in the village, Llandinam, and I'm an electrician, local electrician in the place.
Well, Andrew, you were very close to the river here.
Yeah.
You must have been really starting to get worried last night.
Yeah, we did a bit. Our garden runs down to the river, as you can see, and it was coming around the back. We're probably a couple of inches off flooding, really. We're very lucky, but not as bad as some had it. Apparently in the village it was a lot worse, wasn't it, Carl?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot worse, yeah. But no, we're very lucky, but I've never seen it as high. We've been here 10 years and I've never seen it quite so high. Yeah, so we're very lucky. It actually didn't come in because it does cause a lot of damage. Yeah.
I'd like to take you now over to some of the houses which have been flooded. We've 4 houses in particular that are submerged under 2 feet of water.
Well, my name is Harry Sillato. I've lived here since 1999. I work as a carer and a support worker.
Well, Councillor Lewis, understand that you were here at 3 o'clock this morning with sandbanks. How deep was the water here?
The water here at 9 o'clock at night was knee high.
You've spoken to Russell George, our AM, this morning, and I understand that he was going to write to the NRW?
That is correct. He is putting an email together where he's going to be contacting NRW to get the basis of what their take on this flooding.
And with reference to yourself, you're obviously pointing now to the mess and how deep this was last night.
Well, we've cleaned up. If you look around the corner, we've cleaned up quite a lot, as best we can.
Harry, you must be really upset about all this. It's
completely devastating. I can't explain that. It's awful. to see all your possessions or what you've worked for, you know, everything just thrown away. I don't know what to say, to be honest with you. You know, trying to find somewhere to live while all this dries out and whatever, and then after spending all the money and getting it done, there's the fear that it could easily happen again, because there just seems to be no willingness on the environmental agency side to do anything to help us. They seem to think that we're just, I don't know, that we're expendable. It doesn't matter. But, you know, I mean, I know they want to protect the animals, but the animals don't pay council tax, we do.
As you can see the high water mark here where it came up on this property. It's easy 2 feet, and you can imagine what damage that would do to the interior of this property. This is just one of 4 properties.
Roger Higgs, a resident of Llandinam. I'm standing at the moment in my mother's bungalow. Hetty Higgs, who's 96 years old, was flooded out on Sunday.
So you actually came down here and you rescued her, is that right?
I'd been watching the river all afternoon coming down and checking on the river, and I could see every time I came down the river was higher. So I was here when the actual river flooded, and it came up into the house 2 foot deep within seconds. And I, myself and a neighbour's son, carried my mother to where my car was outside, and we put her in the car and took her to my house in Llandinam. Yeah.
Roger, would you like to just show me around a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We're in the lounge now at the front room, which you can see the level of the flood on the wall. So obviously all the soft furnishings were compromised. All the hard furnishings, of course, are chipboard these days, so they're all ruined. And now we're going into the hall. You can see the central heating, which was storage heaters, so they'll all have to be destroyed and changed. And then we're going into the dining room. Again, soft furnishings and chipboard furniture. The television was on where it is now, so that was safe-ish. And then the conservatory, that was full again. There was a lot of conservatory furniture in there, which is now in the garage. That's ruined. Now we're going back into the hall again. Back door. Kitchen on the left. Again, chipboard units, tumble dryer, a dishwasher and a cooker, which are also destroyed.
Roger, the cost of replacing all this must be, you know, I mean, it's going to take time to dry out, and the cost involved.
Well, they've told me it'll be 6 months before my mother can move back in. As for the cost, we don't have a cost yet. The insurance company have taken it on. You know, they've acknowledged the claim, and so far they've been really good. They couldn't have moved any quicker. But the actual total cost has got to be, I don't know, tens and tens of thousands of pounds. It must be.
And then, of course, we need to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen again.
Well, there are, I think, things which could be done by various people to do with dredging the river, possibly putting a bund by the river, because it only came through about a 20 metre sort of length that the water came through, so there could have been a bund there which would have stopped it, and dredging the river, and possibly the management of the Clywedog, although I don't know really what the condition of the Clywedog was, but it definitely makes a difference, and hopefully it won't happen again.
We're looking at the sandbanks now that you managed to get from the council.
That's correct. Yesterday evening we realised very early on that the water would exceed these 4 properties to my left and would come along and do the same damage to these, so we managed to get into Kirkinsfield Depot down in Newtown and take all their sandbags that they had. So we protected these properties here. We managed to get sandbags up against the doors back and front of all these properties, stretching all the way down past the chapel as well.
I am Mrs. Brenda Shadbolt and I am retired.
Well, I understand that you're one of the ones that got rescued in a boat.
That was an experience.
Would you like to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, to start with, I was on my own in the kitchen and the water was rising rather quicker than I thought it would. My back doorbell went and I went as quick as you can walk in rising water. Passing the shower room, I noticed that the water was pumping up from the drain outside. I got to the back door and my ex-neighbour was the one banging, and she managed to get in and she stayed with me for about 2 hours until the firemen arrived. They were brilliant. They really were. I can't speak highly of them. Although it was serious, it was a bit of a laugh because the man in charge had got a fireman standing in front of me with his back to me, and he told me, "Jump up and we'll give you a piggyback." Well, when you're 90, you don't go jumping up on men's backs, because in fact you can't. And the couple I'm with, which were originally my next door neighbours, he's done all the work on the telephone for me. And as I say, between them, and I've just heard this morning, there's a possibility of being rehoused in Llanidloes.
Well, I'm retired, I'm a pensioner, and my name is Mervyn Edwards, and I live in Llandinam.
Mervyn, you're another victim of this flood. Would you like to tell me briefly about it?
Well, what I can say is that it built up on the Sunday, and we could see the river rising very fast. And towards the evening, round about 5 o'clock, the river burst its banks. We could see it coming, and we got back to the house and we tried as much as we could. We'd done some earlier on of putting stuff up out of the way, but it hit us so hard, so fast, that I would say within 5 or 10 minutes we got about at least, well, I would say a foot of water then, at that stage. And then it continued to rise till we were at a level of 2 foot, 2.5 foot.
Have you ever known this to happen before?
Not from the river. Never from the river. Never.
So moving on from here now, what's your views for the future?
Well, what we need is an answer, because we've already dealt with Natural Resources Wales and the other one, the Environmental Agency. We've had meetings with them, and their argument is it's a wildlife area and they don't want to disturb it. Well, we after all live here, we're the occupants of the bungalows here, and we can see the dangers that lie ahead. And we've advised them over the years, and to how can I say, to deal with say a dredging side of it, where they could dredge the river, deepen the river and bank it so it'd make us reasonably safe. But they reckon that it'll upset the wildlife area, and this is what we keep having a problem with all the time, and nothing's done. I had the assessors in yesterday, the insurance assessors in yesterday, and he told me bluntly that at this moment in time the amount of damage I've got to my bungalow is £83,000.
David Griffiths. I live here at Severn View, been here for over 40 years. 2019 we met 3 representatives of NRW, and it was after a near miss of flooding I would say a week or 10 days before it, and the landowner was with us as well, and it needed the river cleared out of timber, and the gravel on the inside of the bend was the thought on the day, and some additional drainage coming up parallel with the main road and a few trees taken out. And in principle it was agreed, but nothing came of it at all. So I don't know what happened to that. Nothing.
Well, I'm told that back in the late 60s and 70s, the farmers were able to look after the river as they were going through their land and help themselves to the gravel, and they used to keep the flow of the river. But that was stopped. Do you think that that should be reintroduced?
Well, that's exactly what sort of happened. That was stopped, and then nobody actually did any maintenance on the river whatsoever. No correction methods, nothing were introduced. When Severn Trent were in charge of it, they would come along and take some of the bigger trees out to the banks of the river and leave them sprout again, so there's no rubbish, big trees falling into the river.
As we're moving further up the valley now, there's 2 fence lines here. They're planted by the Montgomeryshire Wildlife Trust, and there's trees in between each one of these fence rows, and they are restricting the water flow, unfortunately, which moves the river further down to the A470. That then pulls down. As we're panning across now, you can see that the river swirls back on itself. This is unacceptable. What we would like is the river moving further towards the further side of the valley to make a complete run through instead of coming tight to the A470.
The last private landowner put some very, very, very good correction methods in, and he would nudge it after every storm and kept it in his course, but unfortunately nothing absolutely happens, and you can see from Nyedd Lloyd to the village exactly what's happened, and it's just going to be a major problem now.
The solution here is a complete dredging of the river and moving it over, using the spoils then to build up a bund to keep the river away from the A470, similar to what took place in the 1980s. This needs to happen as soon as possible. As you can see, this is one of the many cars that were marooned here from last night's flood. This one in particular, and another one in the pub car park, are what I've been told, total write-offs by their owners. At one time there were 10 vehicles in this car park with their owners taking up shelter in Llandinam Village Hall. Luckily enough, we have a fantastic community in Llandinam, and teas and coffees and various other drinks were served along with cake and other refreshments.